As a retired music teacher, I thought I had seen it all. The triumphs and the failures, the laughter and the tears. But nothing could have prepared me for the day my own grandson, the boy I had loved and nurtured since birth, betrayed me in front of an entire auditorium. With a single cruel prank, he shattered my heart and my trust, leaving me reeling and questioning everything I thought I knew. But I refused to let his actions define me or my legacy. Instead, I channeled my pain into my music, crafting a surprise composition that would move the audience to tears and teach my grandson a lesson he would never forget. This is the story of how I found the strength to turn the tables on betrayal and reclaim my voice, one note at a time. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. The morning of the concert dawned bright and clear, with a crisp autumn breeze that carried the promise of change and renewal. I woke early, as I always did, my mind already humming with the melodies and harmonies that had been my constant companions for over 6 decades. As I went about my morning routine, the stretches for my arthritis-stricken fingers, the tea with honey to soothe my throat, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and anticipation building in my chest. Today was no ordinary day, after all. Today was the day that the Springfield Community Orchestra would be honoring me with a Lifetime Achievement Award, a recognition of my many years of service and dedication to the arts. It was a humbling thought to know that the community I had called home for so long had chosen to celebrate my contributions in such a public and meaningful way. I had never sought out acclaim or accolades, content simply to share my love of music with anyone who would listen. But to know that my efforts had touched so many lives, had made a difference in the world, however small, that was a gift beyond measure. As I finished my morning ablutions and began to dress for the day, my mind drifted to thoughts of my late wife, Eliza. She had been my rock, my muse, my partner in all things for over 50 years, and her loss still ached like a physical wound. She would have been so proud to see me honored in this way, I knew. She had always believed in me, even when I doubted myself, and her love and support had been the foundation upon which I had built my life and my career. I could almost hear her voice now, whispering words of encouragement and affection in my ear. "You've earned this, Alvin," she would say, her eyes sparkling with pride and joy. "You've touched so many lives with your music, your kindness. Today is about celebrating all that you've given to the world." I smiled to myself as I adjusted my bow tie in the mirror, the same one Eliza had given me on our 40th anniversary. It was a small thing, a token of our enduring love, but it meant the world to me. Wearing it today felt like a way of keeping her close, of honoring her memory even as I stepped into the spotlight. My reverie was interrupted by the sound of the doorbell, followed by the quick, light footsteps of my grandson, Oliver. He had been staying with me for the past few weeks while his parents were out of town, a chance for us to spend some quality time together before he headed off to college in the fall. I had always cherished my relationship with Oliver, had delighted in watching him grow from a precocious child into a talented and ambitious young man. He had inherited my love of music, and I had spent countless hours teaching him the piano, the guitar, the intricacies of composition and theory. He was a quick study, with a natural ear for melody and a passion for pushing boundaries and exploring new sounds. But lately, something had shifted in our dynamic, a tension that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Oliver seemed distant, distracted, as if his mind was always elsewhere. He was often short-tempered and impatient, quick to dismiss my advice or brush off my concerns. I had chalked it up to the stress of senior year, the pressure of college applications and final exams. But a part of me wondered if there was something more going on, something deeper and more troubling. As I made my way downstairs, I pushed those thoughts aside, determined to focus on the joy and the celebration of the day ahead. Oliver was waiting for me in the foyer, dressed in a sharp suit and tie, his dark hair neatly combed. He looked so grown up, so poised and confident, that for a moment I felt a pang of nostalgia for the little boy he had once been. "Looking good, Grandpa," he said with a grin, holding out his hand for a high five. "Ready to show these folks what a true musical legend looks like?" I chuckled and returned the gesture, feeling a rush of affection and pride. I don't know about legend, but I'm certainly ready to give them a performance they won't soon forget. Oliver's smile faltered for a moment, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. But before I could question it, he was ushering me out the door, chattering on about the program and the reception to follow. As we drove to the concert hall, my mind was a whirl of memories and emotions. I thought of all the students I had taught over the years, the young minds I had nurtured and inspired. I thought of the countless hours I had spent hunched over my piano, lost in the flow of creation and expression. And I thought of Eliza, my beloved wife, who had been my constant companion and champion through it all. But most of all, I thought of the music itself, the way it had shaped and defined my life, the way it had given me purpose and meaning and joy. And as we pulled up to the hall, the marquee proudly displaying my name and the words, "Lifetime Achievement Award," I felt a swell of gratitude and humility wash over me. This was my legacy, my gift to the world. And no matter what the future held, I knew that I would always have the music, the magic, and the mystery of the notes and the rhythms that had been my guiding light for so long. With a deep breath and a final squeeze of Oliver's hand, I stepped out of the car and into the bright shining day, ready to face whatever lay ahead, with my head held high and my heart full of song. Little did I know, however, that the true test of my strength and my resilience was yet to come, that the betrayal and the heartbreak that awaited me would shake the very foundations of my world. But in that moment, as I walked towards the hall and the waiting crowd, all I felt was the pure, soaring joy of a life well lived and a love that would never die. The concert hall was a buzz of activity and excitement as I made my way backstage, Oliver trailing close behind. Everywhere I looked, there were familiar faces and warm greetings, people I had known and worked with for decades coming up to shake my hand and offer their congratulations. It was a humbling experience to be surrounded by so much love and admiration, to see the impact that my work had had on so many lives. I felt a lump rising in my throat as I listened to their stories and their memories, the way my music had touched them and inspired them in ways I could never have imagined. But even as I basked in the glow of their praise and affection, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that there was a tension and a discomfort lurking just beneath the surface. I caught snippets of whispered conversations, saw sidelong glances and furrowed brows that made me wonder what I was missing. And then there was Oliver, my beloved grandson, who seemed to grow more agitated and distracted with each passing moment. He kept checking his phone, his fingers tapping out a nervous rhythm on his thigh, as if he was waiting for some kind of signal or cue. I tried to catch his eye, to offer a reassuring smile or a word of encouragement. But he avoided my gaze, his jaw clenched and his shoulders hunched. It was so unlike him, so out of character for the confident and charismatic young man I knew him to be, that I felt a prickle of unease run down my spine. But before I could dwell on it further, I was being ushered onto the stage, the lights blinding, and the applause deafening. I took my seat at the piano, my fingers resting lightly on the keys, and felt a rush of adrenaline and anticipation wash over me. This was my moment, my chance to share my gift with the world one last time, to leave a legacy that would endure long after I was gone. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, letting the music flow through me like a river, like a force of nature that could not be contained. And then, just as I was about to begin, I heard a sound that made my blood run cold. A sound that shattered the silence and the reverence of the moment like a gunshot. It was a laugh, a cruel and mocking laugh that seemed to echo through the hall like a siren. A laugh that I recognized instantly as belonging to my grandson, Oliver. I looked up, my heart pounding and my mind reeling, to see him standing at the edge of the stage, his face twisted into a sneer of contempt and derision. In his hand, he held a phone, the screen glowing with some kind of video or message that I couldn't make out. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm and malice, "I'm afraid there's been a change of plans. You see, my grandfather here, the great Alvin Mercer, isn't quite the musical genius he's been made out to be." I felt my stomach drop, my breath catching in my throat as I watched him stride forward, his eyes flashing with a kind of manic glee. I had never seen him like this before, so full of anger and resentment, so eager to tear down everything I had worked so hard to build. "In fact," he continued, his voice rising with each word, "he's been lying to you all for years, passing off other people's work as his own, taking credit for compositions and arrangements that he had nothing to do with." The audience gasped, a ripple of shock and confusion spreading through the hall like wildfire. I could feel their eyes on me, could sense the doubt and the disbelief that was starting to take hold. But I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but sit there in stunned silence as Oliver continued his tirade, his accusations growing more outrageous and more hurtful with each passing second. He held up his phone, the screen now clearly visible, and I felt my heart shatter into a million pieces as I realized what he was showing them. It was a video, a grainy and distorted video, but one that I recognized instantly. It was a recording of me, hunched over my piano in my study, my fingers flying over the keys as I poured my heart and soul into a new composition. But instead of the soaring melodies and the intricate harmonies that I had spent hours crafting, all that could be heard was a cacophony of discordant notes and fumbling mistakes, a sound that was more akin to a child banging on a toy than a master musician at work. I felt my face flush with shame and humiliation, my eyes stinging with tears of betrayal and heartbreak. How could he do this to me, my own flesh and blood, the boy I had loved and nurtured since the day he was born? How could he take something so precious, so sacred, and twist it into a weapon to be used against me. But even as I reeled from the blow, even as I struggled to make sense of the chaos and the confusion that had engulfed me, I knew that I could not let this be the end, that I could not let Oliver's cruelty and callousness define me or my legacy. I had spent my entire life in service to music, in pursuit of beauty and truth, and the ineffable magic of the human spirit. And I would be damned if I let anyone, even my own grandson, take that away from me. So with a deep breath and a steadying hand, I rose from the piano bench, my eyes fixed on Oliver's smirking face. I could see the triumph and the satisfaction in his gaze, the belief that he had won, that he had finally brought the old man to his knees. But he had underestimated me, had failed to recognize the strength and the resilience that had carried me through a lifetime of challenges and setbacks. And as I stepped forward, my voice steady and my heart full of purpose, I knew that I would show him and everyone else in that hall just what true musicianship, true artistry looked like. "Oliver," I said, my tone calm but firm, "I think there's been a misunderstanding. That video you just showed, that wasn't me composing. That was me teaching, demonstrating to a student the importance of persistence and practice, even in the face of failure and frustration." I could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes, the momentary hesitation as he tried to process my words. But I didn't give him a chance to respond, to come up with another lie or another attack. Instead, I turned to the audience, my gaze sweeping over the sea of faces that had once looked at me with such admiration and respect. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, my voice ringing out clear and strong, "I apologize for the interruption, for the confusion and the discomfort that my grandson's actions have caused. But I want you to know that what you just saw, what you just heard, is not a reflection of who I am or what I stand for." I took a step closer to the edge of the stage, my hands clasped behind my back, my posture straight and proud. I have dedicated my life to music, to the pursuit of excellence, and the sharing of beauty with the world. And I have never, not once, passed off another's work as my own, or taken credit for something I did not create. I could feel the energy in the room shifting, the doubt and the uncertainty giving way to a new sense of curiosity and anticipation. And as I looked out at those faces, at the people who had come to honor and celebrate me, I felt a rush of love and gratitude wash over me, a sense of connection and community that transcended any petty grudge or personal vendetta. "So today," I continued, my voice trembling with emotion, "I want to share with you something new, something that comes straight from my heart and my soul. A composition that I have been working on for months, a tribute to the love and the beauty and the resilience of the human spirit." I turned back to the piano, my fingers hovering over the keys, my mind already lost in the flow of the music that was to come. "This is for you," I said softly, my eyes closing as I let the notes wash over me. "For all of you who have supported me, believed in me, and shared in the joy and the magic of music with me. This is my gift to you, my legacy, my love letter to the world." And with that, I began to play, the melody soaring and swooping like a bird in flight, the harmonies weaving and dancing like the colors of a sunset. I could feel the tears streaming down my face as I poured every ounce of my passion and my pain into the keys, as I let the music speak for me in a way that words never could. And as I played, as the final notes faded into silence and the audience erupted into thunderous applause, I knew that I had won, that I had triumphed over the betrayal and the heartbreak, that had threatened to destroy me. Because in the end, music was my truth, my North Star, the one thing that had never let me down or abandoned me. And as long as I had that, as long as I had the power to touch hearts and souls with the beauty of my art, then nothing and no one could ever truly defeat me. Not even the grandson who had once been my pride and joy, but who had now become my greatest challenge and my deepest sorrow. He would have to find his own way, his own path to redemption and grace. But me? I had my music, my legacy, the love and the light that would carry me through to the end of my days. And that was enough, more than enough, to fill my heart with joy and my soul with peace. The days following the concert were a whirlwind of emotion and activity. The video of my performance, of the new composition that had moved the audience to tears and brought them to their feet in a standing ovation, had gone viral, spreading across social media and news outlets like wildfire. Suddenly, I was the talk of the town, the subject of interviews and profiles and think pieces that sought to understand the man behind the music, the teacher who had touched so many lives and inspired so many dreams. But even as I basked in the glow of my newfound fame, even as I reveled in the outpouring of love and support from my community and beyond, I couldn't shake the deep sense of hurt and betrayal that Oliver's actions had left in their wake. He had disappeared after the concert, slipping away into the night without a word of apology or explanation. I had tried to reach out to him, to understand what had driven him to such cruelty and malice, but he had ignored my calls and messages, shutting me out of his life as completely as if I had never existed. It was a pain unlike any I had ever known, a wound that cut deeper than the loss of my beloved Eliza, or the aches and pains of my aging body. To be rejected by my own flesh and blood, to be cast aside like a piece of garbage after a lifetime of love and devotion, it was almost more than I could bear. But I refused to let it break me, refused to let the actions of one misguided young man define the course of my remaining years. I had survived too much, overcome too many obstacles, to let this be the thing that finally brought me to my knees. And so I threw myself into my music with a renewed sense of purpose and passion, pouring all of my hurt and my anger and my grief into the compositions that had always been my solace and my salvation. I wrote furiously, feverishly, as if the very act of creation could somehow heal the cracks in my heart and make sense of the senseless tragedy that had befallen me. I also reached out to my former students, to the generations of musicians and artists who had passed through my classroom and my life over the years. I invited them to join me in a series of concerts and workshops, to share their own stories and their own gifts with the world in a celebration of the power and the beauty of music. The response was overwhelming, a flood of enthusiasm and excitement that buoyed my spirits and reminded me of the true meaning of my life's work. They came from far and wide, these talented and passionate young people, each one a testament to the enduring impact of a teacher's love and guidance. Together, we made magic on stage and off, creating moments of pure joy and transcendence that lifted the hearts and souls of all who witnessed them. We laughed and we cried, we danced and we sang, we poured our very essence into the music that had brought us all together. And through it all I felt a sense of peace and purpose that I had never known before, a deep and abiding connection to something greater than myself, something that could never be broken or betrayed. But even as I reveled in this new chapter of my life, even as I found solace and meaning in the company of my fellow musicians, I couldn't help but feel a nagging sense of unfinished business, a lingering shadow that cast a pall over my newfound happiness. It was Oliver, of course, the grandson who had once been the light of my life, but who had now become a stranger, a cipher, a source of unending pain and confusion. I knew that I couldn't truly move forward, couldn't fully embrace the future that lay ahead of me, until I had found a way to make peace with him, to understand and perhaps even forgive the choices he had made. And so, on a crisp autumn morning, exactly 1 year after the concert that had changed everything, I found myself standing outside of Oliver's apartment building, my heart pounding and my palms sweating as I gathered the courage to ring the buzzer. I had no idea what I would say to him, no idea how he would react to my presence after so many months of silence and estrangement. But I knew that I had to try, had to make one last effort to bridge the gap that had grown between us, and find a way back to the love and the trust that had once been the bedrock of our relationship. When he answered the door, his face was a mask of shock and confusion, his eyes widening as he took in the sight of me standing there, a small, frail old man with a heart full of hope and a soul full of music. "Grandpa," he said softly, his voice quirking with emotion, "what are you doing here?" I took a deep breath, my gaze never leaving his. "I'm here to talk, Oliver, to understand, to find a way forward, if we can." He hesitated for a moment, his jaw clenching and his eyes darting away. But then, with a sigh of resignation, he stepped aside and motioned for me to enter. As I walked into his apartment, taking in the sparse furnishings and the stacks of sheet music scattered across every surface, I felt a pang of recognition, a sense of kinship with the lost and lonely young man who had once been my pride and joy. "I'm sorry," he said, finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "For everything. For the concert. For the way I treated you. I was just so angry, so jealous. I wanted to be like you, to have your talent and your success. But I couldn't, and it ate me up inside." I nodded slowly, my heart aching with understanding. "I know, Oliver. I know how hard it can be to feel like you're living in someone else's shadow. But that doesn't excuse what you did, the pain you caused." He hung his head, his shoulders slumping with the weight of his shame. "I know, and I'm sorry, truly sorry. I never meant to hurt you like that. I didn't know how to deal with my own failures, my own insecurities." I reached out and took his hand, my fingers trembling slightly as I felt the warmth of his skin against mine. "I forgive you, Oliver. I forgive you because I love you, because you're my grandson, and nothing will ever change that. But I need you to know that your actions have consequences, that the choices you make can leave scars that may never fully heal all." He nodded, his eyes filling with tears. "I know, Grandpa, and I'm ready to face those consequences, to do whatever it takes to make things right between us." I smiled softly, my heart swelling with a bittersweet mix of love and sorrow. "Then let's start by making some music together, shall we? Let's find a way to turn all of this pain and anger into something beautiful, something that can heal us both." And so we did. For hours we sat at the piano, our fingers dancing across the keys as we poured our hearts and souls into the music that had always been our common language, our shared passion. We laughed and we cried. We reminisced and we dreamed. We found a way to bridge the gap that had grown between us and rediscover the love that had always been there, waiting to be rekindled. It wasn't easy, of course. There were moments of awkwardness and tension, moments when the hurt and the betrayal threatened to resurface and tear us apart once more. But we worked through it. We talked and we listened. We found a way to forgive and to move forward, one note at a time. And when we finally emerged from that apartment, our eyes red-rimmed but our hearts full of hope, I knew that we had found something precious, something that could never be taken away from us. We had found our way back to each other, back to the music that had always been the glue that held us together. And as we walked out into the bright autumn sunshine, our arms linked and our spirits soaring, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever storms we might have to weather, we would face them together, as a family, as a team, because that was the true power of music, the true magic of the bonds that we had forged through our shared love and passion. It could heal even the deepest wounds, bridge even the widest divides, and bring us back to the truest and most beautiful versions of ourselves. And for that, I would always be grateful, always be filled with a sense of wonder and awe at the incredible gift that I had been given, the incredible journey that I had been blessed to take. With my grandson by my side and my music in my heart, I knew that I could face anything, overcome anything, and leave a legacy of love and beauty that would endure long after I was gone. And that, in the end, was all I could ever ask for, all I could ever hope to achieve in this wild and precious life that I had been given. The months that followed were a time of healing and renewal, a time of rediscovering the joys and the challenges of life as a musician and a grandfather. Oliver and I threw ourselves into our shared passion with a newfound sense of purpose and dedication, spending long hours in the studio and on the stage, honing our craft and exploring new frontiers of sound and expression. We wrote songs together, collaborating on melodies and lyrics that spoke to the deep well of emotion and experience that we had both drawn from in our own ways. We performed for audiences large and small, sharing our stories and our hearts with anyone who would listen. And through it all, we grew closer and stronger, our bond tempered by the fires of adversity and forged anew in the crucible of our art. We learned to lean on each other, to support and encourage and challenge each other in ways that brought out the best in both of us. It wasn't always easy, of course. There were still moments of tension and misunderstanding, still echoes of the hurt and the betrayal that had once threatened to tear us apart. But we worked through them. We talked and we listened. We found ways to compromise and to forgive. And slowly but surely we began to heal all, to find a new sense of peace and purpose in our lives and in our music. Oliver started to open up more, to share his own struggles and his own dreams with me in a way that he never had before. He told me about the pressure he had felt to live up to my legacy, about the fear and the self-doubt that had driven him to lash out in anger and resentment. He also shared his own musical aspirations, his desire to create something new and original that would stand on its own merits, apart from the shadow of his famous grandfather. And I listened. I encouraged. I offered my own wisdom and guidance where I could, but I also stepped back and let him find his own way, his own voice. Together, we began to explore new genres and styles, incorporating elements of jazz and hip-hop and electronic music into our compositions. We collaborated with other artists and producers, learning from their unique perspectives and approaches to the craft. And as we worked and played and dreamed together, I felt a sense of pride and joy that I had never known before, a deep and abiding love for the young man who had once been lost, but who had now found his way back to the light. But even as we reveled in our newfound connection and creativity, even as we basked in the glow of our shared success and fulfillment, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was still something missing, some piece of the puzzle that had yet to fall into place. It wasn't until a chance encounter with an old friend, a fellow music teacher who had retired years before, that I finally understood what it was. We were sitting in a cozy cafe, sipping tea and reminiscing about the old days, when she mentioned a program she had started at a local community center, a music therapy group for seniors and people with disabilities. "It's amazing, Alvin," she said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm, "the way that music can reach people, even those who have been shut off from the world for so long. The way it can unlock memories and emotions, bring joy and comfort and connection to those who need it most." As I listened to her describe the transformative power of music, the way it could heal all and inspire and uplift even the most broken and weary of souls, I felt a spark of recognition, a sense of purpose that had been lying dormant within me for far too long. I had spent my entire life in pursuit of musical excellence, in the creation and performance of great works of art that could move and inspire audiences around the world. But what if there was another way to use my gifts, another way to make a difference in the lives of those who might never set foot in a concert hall or a recording studio? What if I could bring the joy and the solace of music to those who needed it most, to the lonely and the forgotten, the sick and the suffering? What if I could use my talents and my experience to create a legacy of compassion and connection, one that would endure long after I was gone? The more I thought about it, the more excited I became, the more certain I was that this was the path I was meant to take. And so, with Oliver's blessing and support, I began to put my plan into action. I reached out to local hospitals and nursing homes, offering to bring my music and my teaching skills to their patients and residents. I volunteered at community centers and schools, sharing my love of music with children and adults from all walks of life. And everywhere I went, I saw the same magic happen, the same transformation take place in the hearts and minds of those I encountered. I saw the light come back into the eyes of a woman with Alzheimer's as she sang along to a song from her youth, the tears of joy streaming down the face of a child with autism as he played his first perfect chord on the piano. I saw the power of music to bring people together, to create moments of beauty and grace in even the darkest and most difficult of circumstances. And I knew that this was what I had been searching for all along, the true meaning and purpose of my life's work. Of course, it wasn't always easy. There were long hours and tiring days, moments of frustration and doubt, when I wondered if I was really making a difference, if I was truly leaving a legacy that would endure. But then I would see the smiles on the faces of those I had touched, hear the stories of how my music had brought light and hope into their lives, and I would know that it was all worth it, every struggle and every sacrifice. And through it all, I had Oliver by my side, my partner and my protégé, the one who would carry on my work and my vision long after I was gone. Together we created a foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to bringing music and music education to underserved communities and populations. We called it the Alvin Mercer Music Foundation, a tribute to the man who had inspired us both, the teacher and the mentor, who had shown us the true power and beauty of our art. And as we watched it grow and thrive, as we saw the impact it was having on countless lives and communities, we knew that we had found our true calling, our deepest purpose. It was a legacy of love and compassion, of joy and connection, of the incredible gift of music to heal and transform the human spirit. And it was a legacy that would endure long after we were gone, a testament to the enduring power of art and the unbreakable bonds of family and friendship. As I sat at the piano one evening, my fingers dancing across the keys in a melody that seemed to flow from somewhere deep within me, I felt a sense of peace and gratitude wash over me, a deep and abiding love for the life I had lived and the people I had shared it with. I thought of Eliza, my beloved wife, who had been my rock and my inspiration for so many years. I thought of Oliver, my grandson, who had been lost, but who had found his way back to the light. And I thought of all the countless lives I had touched through my music and my teaching, all the hearts I had opened and the souls I had lifted. And I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be, doing exactly what I was meant to do. I was Alvin Mercer, a musician, a teacher, a grandfather, a man who had lived a life of purpose and passion, of love and beauty and joy. And as the final notes of my song faded into the stillness of the night, I closed my eyes and smiled, my heart full of the music that had always been my guiding light, my true North Star. I was home at last, and I was ready for whatever lay ahead, whatever new adventures and challenges and joys the future might bring. Because I had my music, my family, my legacy, and that was enough, more than enough, to fill my days with meaning and my heart with peace, forever and always, until the very end. As the years passed and my legacy grew, I found myself reflecting more and more on the incredible journey that had brought me to this place, this moment in time. I thought of all the trials and the challenges I had faced, all the joys and the sorrows that had shaped me into the man I was today. I thought of my early years as a young musician, struggling to make a name for myself in a world that often seemed indifferent or even hostile to the power of art. I thought of the countless hours I had spent honing my craft, practicing until my fingers ached and my eyes blurred with fatigue. I thought of the day I had met Eliza, the love of my life, the woman who had been my rock and my inspiration for over 50 years. I remembered the way her eyes had sparkled when she laughed, the way her voice had seemed to fill the room with warmth and light. I thought of the birth of our children, the wonder and the terror of holding those tiny, perfect beings in my arms for the first time. I remembered the sleepless nights and the endless diaper changes, the first steps and the first words, the pride and the joy of watching them grow into the remarkable people they had become. And I thought of the day Eliza had died, the way the world had seemed to crumble and collapse around me, leaving me lost and adrift in a sea of grief and pain. I remembered the long, lonely nights that had followed, the ache in my heart that had never truly gone away. But most of all, I thought of the music, the one constant that had carried me through it all, the melodies that had flowed from my fingers like water, the harmonies that had soared and dipped like birds in flight, the way that every note, every chord, every phrase had seemed to contain a universe of meaning and emotion, a language that spoke to the very depths of the human soul. And as I sat at my piano, my hands moving almost of their own accord across the keys, I felt a sense of gratitude and wonder wash over me, a deep and abiding love for the incredible gift that had been given to me. Because through all the ups and downs, all the triumphs and the joys, music had been my anchor, my compass, my guiding light. It had given me purpose and meaning, connection and community, a way to express the deepest and most profound truths of my existence. And now, as I looked out at the audience that had gathered to hear me play, at the faces of the people who had been touched and transformed by my music, I knew that I had found my true calling, my deepest purpose. I saw the woman with Alzheimer's who had sung along to every word of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, her eyes bright with tears and her voice trembling with emotion. I saw the teenage boy with autism who had closed his eyes and swayed to the rhythm of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, his face a mask of pure bliss and contentment. I saw the elderly couple who had held hands throughout my rendition of Unforgettable, their love and devotion to each other shining through every wrinkle and every gray hair. And I saw Oliver, my beloved grandson, sitting in the front row, with a look of pride and admiration on his face, his own fingers tapping out the melody on his thigh. And as I played the final notes of my set, as the audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation that seemed to shake the very foundations of the earth, I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment that I had never known before, a deep and abiding joy that filled every corner of my being. Because this was what it was all about in the end. Not the fame or the fortune, not the accolades or the awards, but the simple, profound act of sharing something beautiful and true with the world, of touching hearts and minds and souls in a way that only music could. And as I took my final bow, as I stepped back from the piano and into the embrace of my loved ones, I knew that I had achieved something far greater than any worldly success or achievement. I had created a legacy of love and compassion, of joy and connection that would endure long after I was gone. I had used my gifts and my passions to make a difference in the world, to bring light and hope and healing to those who needed it most. And in doing so, I had found the true meaning and purpose of my life, the reason I had been put on this earth in the first place. And so, as I looked out at the sea of smiling faces, at the tears of joy and gratitude that streamed down so many cheeks, I felt a sense of contentment and fulfillment that I had never known before, a deep and abiding peace that seemed to radiate from every cell of my being. I was Alvin Mercer, a musician, a teacher, a grandfather, a man who had lived a life of purpose and passion, of love and beauty and joy. And I knew that, no matter what the future might bring, I would always have this moment, this incredible gift of music and connection and community. And that, in the end, was all I could ever ask for, all I could ever hope to achieve in this wild and precious life that I had been given. So I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, my heart full of gratitude and my soul full of song. And I knew that, whatever lay ahead, I would face it with courage and grace, with the strength and the resilience that had always been my birthright. Because I was a musician, an artist, a creator of beauty and truth in a world that so desperately needed it. And as long as there was breath in my body and music in my heart, I would never stop sharing that gift with all those who crossed my path. That was my promise, my vow, my sacred duty, and I would fulfill it with every fiber of my being, until the very end of my days. It's been 5 years since that final concert, 5 years since I stepped back from the stage and the spotlight, and into a new chapter of my life. And as I sit here in my cozy little apartment, surrounded by the mementos and the memories of a lifetime in music, I can't help but feel a sense of wonder and gratitude for the incredible journey that has been my life. Oh, don't get me wrong. It hasn't always been easy. There have been plenty of struggles and setbacks along the way, plenty of moments when I've felt lost or discouraged or ready to give up. But through it all, I've had my music, my family, my unshakable belief in the power of art to change lives and transform the world. And that has made all the difference in the end. Because no matter how dark the night or how steep the climb, I've always known that I had something beautiful and true to share with the world, something that could touch hearts and lift spirits and bring people together in ways that nothing else could. And so I've kept on playing, kept on teaching, kept on using my gifts and my passions to make a difference in whatever way I could. I've continued to volunteer at hospitals and nursing homes, bringing the joy and the solace of music to those who need it most. I've mentored young musicians and aspiring artists, passing on the wisdom and the experience that I've gained over a lifetime in the business. And through it all, I've had Oliver by my side, my partner, and my protege, the one who will carry on my legacy long after I'm gone. Together we've watched the Alvin Mercer Music Foundation grow and thrive, touching countless lives and communities with the power of art and education. It's been a beautiful thing to witness, a testament to the enduring impact that one person's passion and dedication can have on the world. And as I look back on all that we've accomplished, all the lives that we've changed and the hearts that we've opened, I can't help but feel a deep sense of pride and satisfaction. Because this is what it's all about in the end. Not the fame or the fortune, not the accolades or the awards, but the simple, profound act of using our gifts and our talents to make the world a little brighter, a little more beautiful, a little more full of love and compassion and joy. And as I sit here in the twilight of my years, surrounded by the music and the memories that have shaped my life, I know that I have done just that. I have lived a life of purpose and passion, of art and love and connection. And I have left a legacy that will endure long after I am gone, a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome even the greatest of odds. So I close my eyes and take a deep breath, my heart full of peace and my soul full of song. And I know that, whatever the future may bring, I will face it with courage and grace, with the strength and the resilience that have always been my birthright. Because I am Alvin Mercer, a musician, a teacher, a grandfather, a man who has lived a life of beauty and truth and love. And as long as there is breath in my body and music in my heart, I will never stop sharing that gift with the world. That is my promise, my legacy, my final bow. And I make it with all the love and gratitude and joy that I have to give. Thank you, my friends, for being a part of this incredible journey. And may the music never stop playing, in your hearts and in mine, until we meet again in that great symphony in the sky. If you found Alvin's story of music, love, and the power of the human spirit inspiring, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting tales of everyday heroes making a difference in the world. And don't forget to share your own experiences and reflections in the comments below. We all have a song in our hearts, a story to tell, a legacy to leave. By sharing our journeys and our triumphs, we inspire and uplift each other, and we create a world that is a little broader, a little more beautiful, a little more full of hope and joy. So keep shining your light, my friends. Keep sharing your gifts and your passions with the world, and never ever stop believing in the power of music, of art, of love to change lives and transform the world. Because that is the true magic, the true miracle of this incredible journey we call life. And it is a magic that lives within each and every one of us, just waiting to be unleashed. So go out there and make some noise, make some art, make some love. The world is waiting for your song, and I'll be right there with you, cheering you on every step of the way. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, and may the music never stop playing.